I'm here with the lovely and talented Megan of Vexed to talk about the new record, Negative Energy, out June 23rd on Napalm Records. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Always a pleasure to see you. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm good. I'm very tired, not getting much sleep at the moment with the amount of work that's going on with the album, but it's a good kind of tired, you know? So yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me back on.
Well, always a pleasure. The door is always open and there's always a seat at the table for you. So
Thank you.
let's talk about this record. And let me start off by asking you, what was the inspiration behind the aggression, the intensity, the overall nature of being pissed off that this record puts forward almost with every single song?
I think so it's going to start on an immediate downer, to be honest. It's based on the whole concept of the album is based on the last 2 years when since we released the first album, Culling Culture, the day of release, my granddad, who is I classed as my dad, he raised me, was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and so I couldn't enjoy Culling Culture or the album campaign because I had to quit my job and care for him. And we thought we were going to have a couple more years with him, but we actually ended up only having 3 months with him. And it just completely turned all our lives upside down. And everything went from being great and let's celebrate this album to, wow, my parents just died and I don't know how to cope with life. And so all the things that come with death and grief and the grieving process and, you know, the denial, the anger, the depression, all of that is what went into this album. And I think a lot of people are noticing how dark it is and how there isn't really any light spots. There's a couple, but you know, it's such a dark topic and it was such a difficult time for all of us as a band, and just as people, that it was just an album that we couldn't possibly put any positivity into. The only way we could make it and find any strength to do it was by just literally putting all our negativity into it.
Does that make it a little bit more difficult for you to perhaps perform some of these songs, considering the baggage that comes with them?
Yeah, I think like songs like Trauma Euphoria and It's Not the End will be tricky to do live. Hopefully when I'm in like the live setting and the adrenaline kicks in and you know I've got my stage confidence, I won't think about it. But recording them was really hard. A lot of tears were shed.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a difficult process, not only to write, but then to perform, record, go through it. It almost forces you to relive some of those moments. That's kind of the assumption that I'm getting.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know, a lot of these lyrics were written at my grandpa's bedside. So, you know, I had to sit there for 24 hours a day, sleeping next to him, just making sure he was still breathing. And so that takes a toll on anybody's mental health and mental well-being. And, you know, I didn't have anything to do. So I would write lyrics. And when I sort of sing those lyrics or scream those lyrics, it takes me back to that place. So it is really difficult and very vulnerable, but at the same time I don't regret doing it. I'm glad I did it because it's, for me personally, it's the only way I could sort of what's the word, understand what had happened, and it was almost like my kind of therapy, like the process of it.
Did the debut record help you guys in any way when it came down, not to the creation process of this album, because obviously the inspiration is completely different, but maybe to the
Mm.
recording process and even what comes after the release date and all the troubles and tribulations that come from it? Did you guys take a lot of learning lessons from that debut record?
Oh yeah, for sure. We learned that you need to be so much more prepared. Um, we, you know, they always say, you know, once you get signed, everything's great, but once you get signed, like the work is just 100 times harder, and you can't turn off your phone ever. You have to be ready to do something 100% of the time. So, yeah, it set us up to kind of be far more prepared with what was to come. But also, we kind of learned what we did like and what we didn't like about what we'd done. Not necessarily that like we didn't literally like things we'd done, but things perhaps we wouldn't do again. Like we spent a lot of time in ridiculous locations, for example, on our last music videos, we'd be up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, pulling all-nighters, recording in an abandoned building in the freezing cold. And this time we were just like, let's just go to a nice warm studio.
Changing things around a little bit from that perspective.
Yeah.
You know, this album is definitely personal for you. Opening up in this manner on a record, putting out an album that really showcases not just who you are as a person, but your inner thoughts and your inner demons at this point in time. Does that now open doors for you to go even deeper into that field, or is this something that was specifically to this record, and in the future we're going to see a different you and a different side of the band?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Like, I think I'll always be open to delving deeper into those kind of topics, because whenever something is on my mind, the only way that I feel like I can process it is by writing songs about it. It's just the way that I've always coped with anything. And so if something happens to come up, or if I feel like I need to get it off my chest, I will. But then again, we've been looking into writing maybe an EP or an album that's a little bit different and kind of delving into more of our sort of other electronic vibes. Not anything crazy, don't get me wrong. We're not going to suddenly become like a dubstep band, but you just never know. We just love music, and I think we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves to stick to a sound or stick to a genre. Just going to write stuff we like, but ultimately it will always be very heavy.
When you look at this record, do you start already looking at which songs you're going to be able to pluck from it to include it in your live set?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely ones that we don't want to do.
Maybe those are easier. That's a shorter list, maybe.
Yeah, they're easier. I mean, it's not that we don't want to do them. We'd love to do them. But for example, songs like Extremist, so fast, so like there's no sort of, apart from the chorus, there's no repetitive rhythm. It's just very all over the place. So for the boys' sake, I'm fine because I wrote the rhythm, so I know it, like the back of my hand. But for the boys' sake, if they get one line wrong, that's it. The songs, you fucked up the songs. So yeah, we'll have to make sure we've definitely got that one down before we do that live. But overall, it just is from show to show. Festivals will keep things upbeat and mosh pit worthy, and then if we're doing something that's maybe a bit more personal, we'll bring out those deeper, sadder, slower songs.
You mentioned how tears were shed during the recording process of some of these songs. Is there one track specifically that really pulls at your heartstrings?
Yeah, that would have to be It's Not the End. That is a song that is 100% written about my grandpa and the process of losing him. And that was written, the whole thing, at his bedside. So when I had to go into the booth and record that, I asked for all the boys to be there. And I don't like crying in front of people, weirdly. I always promote good mental health, but I still have my own issues. I don't like crying in front of people, but I wanted the boys to be there, and I warned our producer. I was like, I'm going to cry. And he was like, it's fine, it's fine. Like, you don't need to be weird about it. But yeah, I got in the booth and was just absolutely just the tears were just pouring out. But in a weird way, I think it made the song better because you can really feel and hear the pain, and you can hear how much he meant to me in that. And if it had come across completely perfect and squeaky clean, it wouldn't have felt genuine. So yeah, luckily the boys were there to pick me up and say silly jokes and just make me laugh. So it was all good. It was all worth it.
I think I mentioned in my review that I felt at times, and I meant this as a compliment. I didn't mean this as a criticism, that your vocals and your performance came across almost unhinged, like the
Yeah.
emotional push that the songs had on you didn't allow you to control the delivery, which gave a more organic, unhinged vibe to the song. But it was what the song really needed to be. Did
Thank you.
you feel that in the moment when it was being recorded?
Yeah, I purposefully let myself make mistakes. I didn't try to be 100% vocally accurate when I felt like I had a bit of a wobble, in my voice, or I was struggling, or, I let that happen because I felt like it was the only way that I could really portray the feeling. If somebody's screaming or singing about losing a loved one, you know, if you want to do the approach where it's just very, very well put together and vocally perfect, that then that's their choice. But for me, it was, one, I don't even know if I can do that because I'm too upset, and two, I think it'll just actually benefit the song by just letting all the mistakes come out and all the cracks and wobbles in my voice.
In your vocal performance on this record, we definitely got the heavier side of your range. I mean, there's still some clean vocals, bringing in some melancholy more towards the end of the record because their album consistently give us a little bit more of your heavier side.
Yeah.
Was that also a result of the themes of the album, that you didn't find room to be a little bit more cheerful and to have a different delivery?
It was a little bit of that, but it was also the fact that I really don't enjoy singing, to be honest, anymore.
That seems
I
really strange to me.
yeah, I listen to, the more I step away from bands that have singing in it. Personally, when I turn on a metal track, I like to hear screaming and shouting, and you know, occasionally a nice melody here and there is cool, but I'm just not very into the copy and paste, verses screamed, choruses sung, blah blah blah. I just get bored of it. And don't get me wrong, they're sick. We have a song that we actually released today that is like that, because I think there's a time and a place for them. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it on every song. And I just enjoy screaming and shouting and spoken word and rapping a lot more. And I wanted to delve into those other techniques instead of just sort of relying on singing all the time.
So is that something that you're going to carry forward? Because I felt like the album, the cleaner side of the vocals at the end were really good, because
Thank you.
it's a different way of showing emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly felt like maybe a little bit more of that throughout the record would have been really cool in order to create some ebbs and flows vocally. But considering that you prefer more of the rapping and the spoken word and that kind of stuff, you can still do a lot with that. So do you see that becoming a little bit more on parallel with your other side, with the more aggressive side?
Yeah, I think I prefer, you know, the ebbs and flows for me were the doing the spoken word or doing the rapping instead of singing. You know, there were songs like We Don't Talk About It where I could have sung the whole verse, but I wanted to do spoken word. And so I want to try and use different techniques to create the ebbs and flows instead of singing. And I'm sure I will do singing, you know, don't get me wrong, I love a good catchy melody, but it's just not something I want to always rely on. And it's just, I find it, I don't know how to say it, I just find it too basic to just kind of copy and paste a singing melody. I don't know, I'm very overly critical of my own vocals, and to me just singing was a cop out. I wanted to try something else, and like I said, I'm obsessed with heavy vocals, and yeah, that's more of the road that I want to go down. But then, you know, you can't please everybody, because some people have said, oh, we love the heavy stuff, it's great, and then other people have said, you know, the singing sucks, and then and then vice versa. So you can't please everyone. We've put a little bit of everything in there. Hopefully somebody finds a song they like.
I think at the end of the day, you can only make yourself happy, and let the chips fall where they may. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you're never going to please everybody, like you said. Now, the album that
No.
you decided to name a Negative Energy, I feel like at that time in your life there was plenty of negative energy. But now, as you look forward, do you still see a lot of negative energy? Maybe not around you, but in the world in general?
Oh yeah, definitely. There is like a good community that's coming together and is sort of making like proper, what am I saying? There is like an active community of people that's making the effort to stamp out people that are spreading hate and stuff. But those other people are always going to be there. So it's just about kind of encouraging and liking those comments more, so to speak, than giving all the negative and the hateful ones as much. Give them less. And yeah, it's a tricky one. I want to be positive, but I think humanity in general a bit shit. there are some horrific people on this planet, but then also there are some wonderful, lovely people. So keep your circle small, and yeah, just ignore those fuckers that are out there to bring you down if you can.
What I do is before I go to bed every night, there's a channel on YouTube called the Dodo. They have animal videos and
Oh, I love the Dodo. Yeah.
I watch at least 2 videos before I go to bed just to have a little bit of hope and humanity as I go to sleep.
Yes.
Because if I don't wake up from my sleep, at least I want that to be the last things that I've experienced, which is happiness and animals,
Yes.
which it's 2 things that I love. So
That's same here.
that's my goal that I set for myself. Every night I'm going to watch 2 videos. I love animals. I love happy animal stories with people, with good
Yeah.
people. So if I'm going to depart this world, I want those to be my departing memories. And because there's too much negativity out there. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're going to go to bed already on a sour note. You wake up on a
Mm-hmm.
sour note, and the cycle just becomes like a never-ending revolving door. That's
Yeah.
my take.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly how I feel. And I love that you watch the Dodo because I do as well. And animals are just the best thing. I've got too many, and they're the things that keep me going.
Yeah, me too. I got 5 birds, but let's not get into that. I'm a bird.
Oh my God. I'm a bird person too. I could talk to you for hours about birds. Oh my God.
Yeah, I have like 3 different kinds, but 5 in total. All of them rescues. So it's a busy house at my place.
I love that. Well, we've got loads of chickens and ducks. So yeah.
They count. They count. They have
Yeah.
feathers. They definitely count.
Oh, they do.
I saw you guys posting on Twitter. I think it was on Twitter, asking, is there any band that will take us on a tour in North America? To which I retweeted because I was like, yes, this needs to happen. I don't care who we have to talk to, like what hands do we have to grease, but we need to get Vexed on a North American tour. Do you have hopes, or is there something that you think that maybe not this year but next year you guys will be able to jump across the pond and come and play some shows here?
I hope so. We're trying so hard. And like we have promoters and agents that are in America working on it. But the trouble is, we're not a huge band. And for us to fly out there and put on a headline show would just not be a good idea for anybody. So we need somebody to want to take us out and support them. And yeah, any bands that want to do that will happily do it and will hype you up so much, I promise. But yeah, we're working on it. We're definitely
I'm thinking, Barry Tomorrow just did a North American tour that was super successful. So maybe they'll come back again soon. Bring you guys would be a great idea. While She Sleeps, they tour here all the time, even though they haven't been here in a very long time. I think we should do another, in UK invasion of America. You guys are taking back what was once yours. I don't know. You can do whatever you want, but we just need all of you guys to come here and play some shows. I really feel like we're missing out.
That would be great. I'd love that. Yeah, please let's make it happen. That would be fantastic.
Keep talking. It's positive reinforcement. If we keep talking about it, things will happen. Positive things will happen. One last question for you. As the album now is really there, almost at the hands of the fans, and people can start listening to it just in a couple of days, what are your plans following the album release? Because that's perhaps when the other side of the work really begins.
So plans are to play some of our album launch shows and headline shows. We want to get into those small venues and be with our fans that have been there from day one, and or even new fans, and play them the album and get up close and personal and sweaty and just vent it out with them. And then after that, we're just working on those other tours. When it comes to writing more music, we've got some ideas and some things that are sort of happening behind the scenes that we're working on. So there should be more music relatively soon, but we'll let negative energy have its moment. So yeah, it's just a lot of really boring business industry stuff. But in the meanwhile, yeah, just getting our claws into any shows that we can do.
Well, Megan, thank you very much for your time today. Let me just say this. If you guys come to North America and you play in Toronto, I'll come to the venue, I'll pick you up, I'll bring you over to my place, and you can meet my birds.
I will hold you to that, because I would love that so
100%,
much.
100%, and I'm sure they'll all love you. They're very fluffy, and they're very kind, and they're all very loving. So I'm sure they would be taken back by you, and I'm sure they would want head scratches and all of that stuff.
Well, I will provide all the head scratches they want.
Okay, we got a deal. Thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. All the best to you and the guys with the release of this record on June 23rd on Napalm Records, Negative Energy. Go pick it up. Vexed. Once again, Megan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to chat to you.
Always. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.